Yum. Ooh, there's a big fish down there. Come on.
A lot of minnows. There's a lot of minnows over there. We need the camera. They're like fish. The minnows. The minnows are over here, Mama. The minnows are over here, Mama. Mama, the minnows are over here, Mama.
I'm kind of in an uncomfortable position, so hopefully I can last throughout this video. All right. We are here visiting Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, Gitmo for short. It is a US military base in a small little section of the southeastern corner of the island of Cuba, given to the US by the Cuban president in 1903. I have never stayed on a military base before, so it's been very interesting learning about the rules y todas las cosas that are different here. So different from anything I'm used to. I'm gonna share a bunch of stuff here and I might get some things slightly off, so don't come at me. Don't take everything I say as pure fact, but I thought it would be interesting for you all to learn a little bit about what it's like visiting here. And my sister says there's one big question that everyone asks about when she mentions that she lives in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. That's why they say Gitmo, because it's way easier than Guantanamo. But I'll share that big question at the end because I think the answer will actually surprise you. So first of all, when you want to come visit, there's this whole process, paperwork, background checks, everything that you need to go through. And actually, mostly the person that sponsors you has to go through in order for you to come. They have to send you paperwork, you have to fill it out, they have to submit it. Like I said, the background check, there's a waiting period and you have to have your dates figured out of when you're coming and all kinds of things. So then when you actually want to fly, you go into, there's two different places that fly to here, I think, from the mainland of the US. We went through Jacksonville, but we had to go onto the military base in Jacksonville to get to their, I think they call it the terminal, their airport, you know. You have to sign yourself in when you get there. You have to wait a while. They call people's names and be like, yep, you have a seat. Yep, you have a seat. And then eventually, if you're called, you get to pay for your seat. You fly from there to Gitmo. Arriving in Gitmo off the airplane, they have to check your paperwork. And they have a lot of security measures and all kinds of stuff. It's a whole thing. It was very interesting. It's definitely not your normal buy a ticket online and go to the airport and fly. Ouch. Support myself. How? I don't know. If I put this right here. Okay. Ouch. Ouch. The weather here, it is pretty much always sunny. Unless it's raining when it's in the rainy season, like mid-April-ish, but pretty humid. It cools off at night, like most places. Like it might be around 75 at night and like 85 during the day. It gets windy in the afternoons pretty much every day, at least since I've been here. I think this might just be a seasonal thing, but don't quote me on that. There are so many no-see-ums. I don't know if you can tell, I have red spots all over me. It is not a rash, it is little tiny bugs that bite, and it's just so much fun. But also, they get a lot of mosquitoes once the rainy season starts. My sister says they're really, really horrible, but I have not experienced that, thankfully. I might be gone before the bugs actually. Oh my goodness. I keep wanting to say the island, but it's a bay. It's just like a small town, okay? It's like just a small. So there's one main store. It's called the Navy Exchange or the NEX or the NEX, whatever you want to call it. Navy Exchange and I don't know how to pronounce commissary. It's like sort of a catch-all. There's groceries, there's, retail stuff, clothing, shoes, toys, There are a lot of things that there just might not be in stock at the time because everything that comes there comes off of the barge, which comes from the United States mainland. Y entonces, hay veces, for example, you want to go buy onions, but maybe all the onions went bad or all of them went out of stock before they got the new order coming in on the barge, so you don't get onions this week. So it's not like, oh, I found this one thing at the store, I'm going to keep getting it every week that I go grocery shopping. No, sometimes there's just no yogurt this week. It's very interesting because we are used to, like, if you go to Walmart in the normal continental 48, should I say, generally there's like a whole aisle of cereal, right? Dry cereal. No, here there's maybe half of an aisle, but it's not, the aisles aren't nearly as big and long, and it's just like one part. And then so there's like different things in the same aisles together that you wouldn't really expect, like peanut butter and jam are right here, and then if you turn around is like cleaning supplies. I might get that a little bit off, I can't remember specifically, but it just feels kind of weird, all of the things that are together in the same aisle because there's just small amounts of each thing. The checker people at the store are paid employees, but then the people who are bagging stuff, they get paid only in tips, so you have to remember to bring cash so you can tip the bagger so they can get their pay for the day. Welcome to the most important part of this trip, which is the wood shop. My sister and her husband have this wood shop, woodworking business you might call it. It's called Taz Boards. They do some really incredible pieces, cutting boards, wooden spoons. They're getting into drinkware. They do amazing art with my sister who does wood burning pyrography and beautiful, beautiful stuff. Some bottle openers I've been sanding to make them buttery smooth. Here's some stuff in progress. These are going to be turned into cups. Here's a sample of what those pieces are gonna do. Here's another sample. So I'm here to help out a bit and basically just doing a lot of sanding. Hay una escuela, they have K through 12 and maybe 12-ish people per graduating class, depending on the year. There is a golf course, not free, but then there are a bunch of free stuff like the gym, the pool, there's a splash pad for kids. Then they also have a bowling alley rec room, like with a pool table and whatnot, different things. There is a lighthouse here, which you can go to and get your passport stamped, which is pretty cool. There's a museum now. The lighthouse is out of commission. They don't use it anymore as a lighthouse, but you can go climb up there.
This is so cool.
There are beautiful views basically everywhere you go. Most places you can see at least part of the water. A part of the water? What is that? That doesn't make sense. No tiene sentido eso. You can see at least a little bit of water from basically everywhere you go. Oh, itchy, itchy, itchy. It's so beautiful. Even though every drive you take is basically like a 3-minute drive, you get a nice view when you go on a drive. There's only a handful of restaurants with a very limited selection of, on their menu. The island, not the island, the bay. There's one main drag that like goes across the whole place. Oh, I forgot to mention, after you fly in, you need to take a bus from the airport to the ferry, and then you take the ferry across the bay to what they call ferry landing, where your sponsor would generally pick you up, and then you take the main drive to, there's like various residential area, like neighborhoods, like residential, what am I saying? Each of the neighborhoods has a name, and then you identify houses by the neighborhood name plus the house number. They use basically the neighborhood name in place of the street name. Does that make sense? I don't know. There are a couple of outdoor movie theaters which are free to go to as well, which they have like the huge, humongous, outdoor screen. Puedes ver una película every single night of the week if you want, for free. But there is one of those outdoor movie locations. There are so many banana rats, which they have a different name. Let me put it in here because I can't remember it. But you kind of like gotta watch out for banana rats, which brings me into the fun facts. Which is there are a lot of iguanas everywhere, banana rats. These banana rats are basically like huge rats. They're like this big. Not as nasty looking per se, but yeah. There are crabs up the wazoo, sometimes really big ones. There are pythons, I think, some really big snakes, and they're protected species. So like what if a snake came? Like, I gotta remember to watch out for animals. There are little lizards everywhere. And then the big iguanas. We went to brunch at the Bayview one day, and there are iguanas. Thank you. Just hanging out, and they know they are protected. They know that humans aren't going to do anything to them, so they just come up and eat scraps from under the tables like stray cats would. Like, it's very interesting. Also, there's a lot of stray cats. Fun little thing, they do desalination here, so they like make their own drinking water out of the ocean water. And back in the day, they used to pipe water over from Cuba itself to drink and, you know, shower and everything. And when they started doing desalination, the people of Cuba were like, no, you guys are stealing water from us. Like, they were not letting go of that. So then somebody, I don't know who, made a whole big ceremony out of cutting that pipe that used to pipe water over from Cuba. And like, so made it very obvious, like, the pipe is cut, there's no water running through this pipe anymore. We're making our own water. Like, ya no necesitamos eso. As I said, it is very humid here, and so you have to be careful of like crackers, bread, tortillas, it's stuff that you put in your cupboard. You have to eat it very fast. You can't leave it in there very long because it gets very stale. Just like, sometimes you buy stuff sealed from the grocery store and you bring it home, like we got some granola bars, and those granola bars were stale. Yeah, like. Also, hard candy, like Jolly Ranchers, they like congeal together, like get melty almost in your cupboard. And like, I've been freezing my butt off at my sister's house because they keep the AC on and the fans running. She just told me today they keep it at 70, which is like, I'm cold when it's 70 degrees. But yeah, so in their cupboard, their Jolly Ranchers like melted together. There are a lot of Jamaicans and Filipinos here. They are known as third country nationals, I believe. So they're here to work and basically send money back to their families, back home in their, you know, home country. Also here, since everybody has to go through a process, a background check, paperwork to get here is very closed off to just like, you can't just have random people coming in here. It is very safe. And so I was talking to this girl who, she's been living here for 2.5 years now, and she's leaving soon, but she said she's like worried to go back into like the real world because there's that little bit of fear of what's it gonna be like. You know, it's so protected here, and I could totally see that being kind of scary, you know? Like, it's a little bit like moving from a small town into a big city, but on another level because it's so protected here. Déjame saber down below in the comments if you have any other fun facts to share about Cuba. Actually, Guantanamo Bay, shall we say, about Gitmo. And hit the like button if you've learned anything from this video so far. Now, I'm going to talk about some rules here, because there's a lot of rules. Being that it is a military base, first of all, but also it's on an island of another country. Like, on the other side of the gate is not the US, you know? There are a lot of areas where you can't film or take any photos. Thankfully, here at this beautiful place, you can. Did I mention this yet? The banyan tree? Let me just hang on with the rules for a second. I'm at this place, they call it the Tree of Life. It's this humongous banyan tree. It's just beautiful. I came here one day just to sit and just like enjoy the tree and the leaves and everything and journal, but such a mess of roots everywhere and just like, oh my gosh, it's just, and there's just writing on every limb. Look at, oh, please don't be snakes. Look at. Tree of Life. Yeah, it's just like a super old tree and everybody comes. It's just, oh, I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. You have to wear a reflective belt when you're walking along the roads at night. Safety first, people. The national anthem plays at 8 a.m. and if you're outside when it starts, you have to take your hat off. If you're a male, you take your hat off. You have to stop whatever you're doing, face the music or the closest flag that you can see. And then military and veterans have to stand at attention, but civilians just stand there until the song is over. And after the song is over, there's another like tune thingy signals that you can be at ease. And if you're driving, you have to stop and put your flashers on. Y esperar que termine. Oh, there's also a sunset song, which plays, around sunset, and there's a 5-minute warning before it starts. If you go out in a kayak or a paddleboard or a personal boat, whatever, anything like on the water, you have to have a captain's license, which is not that hard to get, but you have to get it in order to go out, or you have to be with somebody who does have a captain's license. You also have to have what they call a float plan with port control. You have to give them all the information, like how long you're going to be gone, where are you planning to go, like who are you with, and all this stuff. So then you have to tell them when you're leaving, and you have to report back when you get back to shore. And then you're not allowed past certain points in the water. Like you can't just like drive around the island on your boat to get to like parts of Cuba. No, not allowed. And that brings me to the big question that everybody wants to know. Let's just put it this way. They say something like, how often do you go to Havana? The thing is, you're not allowed to cross over from Gitmo to Cuba or from Cuba to Gitmo. And as a regular civilian, you can't even go near where the gate is or where the whole like fenced off area is. You're very much in this little bay area that is just this little pocket of United States, and just there's no getting to Cuba from Gitmo. You just can't. So sadly, no visiting Havana, and no, you cannot experience Cuba itself when you are visiting Guantanamo Bay. There's probably a lot of other information that you would like to know about here, which I probably shouldn't share on the internet, so yeah. Anyway, that's a little look. If you enjoyed this video, you may also enjoy my last video where I shared my adventure of completely opposite weather in the snowy north, and I got into a little bit of what I like to call the waiting game. Hasta la próxima. Thanks for watching. Bye. Yeah, man, look at those bites. Look at those bites, man. They're cute. Looking cute. All right, guys, let's hope this is working. Borrowing a mic from my sister. I forgot the windscreen. It is a little bit windy here. This thing keeps sagging. I'm just going to show you if my phone works. It is very broken. What this setup looks like, because this is not ideal. I don't have a tripod, so I can't just set up any old where. So okay, here we go. Look at this. Don't worry, hermana, it was just the lens cap that fell. I found it. Not to worry.